Good day. I would like to talk about tithes. The giving of tithes is pressed by the churches today. And if we look at this from a biblical point, what are we led to believe by Scripture? We know that when the tabernacle was built in the wilderness, there was a commandment given for the children of Israel to tithe a tenth of their increase to the Levites. The entire tribe of Levi was in the service of the tabernacle and to Yahuwah. So the increase of the crops or the flocks of the 11 tribes was given to the 12th tribe so that they had their sustenance, because they didn't have an inheritance. They weren't farmers or herdsmen. They were in service in the temple or in the tabernacle. So what is a tithe? We don't have a Levitical priesthood to tithe to today. That priesthood is gone. So how do we tithe? If we look in Genesis, we have a couple of examples of tithing. One, when Abraham returned from the slaughter of the kings, he met Melchizedek and he paid a tithe of all. But when the king of Sodom came to Abraham and told him, "You keep the goods and give me the people," Abraham told the king of Sodom, he said, "I've lifted up my hands to the Most High, that I will not keep a thread or a shoe latch from you, lest you say that you have made Abram rich." So Abram knew that his wealth was from the Most High Yahuwah. So what did Abraham tithe? There's no description as to what he tithed. We have him returning from the slaughter of the kings, and it says that he paid a tithe of all, but yet he refused to keep anything that he recovered when he went and recovered Lot and his family and the people that had been captured. He kept nothing. So what was the tithe? In Genesis, another place, Jacob set up a stone, and he said, "This pillar is the house of Elohim. And when I come here again to this place, I will pay to you, or I will give you a tithe of all." So we have a stone that was set up, and that was called the house of Elohim. So did he tithe to the stone? Does not make sense. I'm going to go this direction. That when Moses brought the children of Israel to Mount Sinai, and they were given the commandments, not 9, not 10, or not 11. They were given 10 commandments. And were instructed to keep all of the commandments. And it refers to those 10. So if a tithe is a tenth, then a tithe of all would be obedience to all of the commandments. In Matthew 23, Yahushua Messiah is chastising the Pharisees pretty severely for their conduct. He said that they do well that they tithe of mint, anise, and cumin. And reading the text, all we see is spices. but there's no command to tithe spices. But if we look at the meanings of the words, that meant it, you got mint, anise, and cumin. So the mint is represents being joyful, and the anise is it's an odor or an herb with a scent, but the idea that it's presenting is that we should give our prayers in gladness, so that it is a sweet savor to Yahuwah. This is the smoke, the ascending smoke that rises to heaven. This is the prayers of the saints. So the tithe is given in prayer. Now, should we help those that are in need? For sure and for certain. Anytime we can help someone that is in need, we should help. But to tithe to the church's offering plate, 1/10 of your earnings, all you're doing is paying the synagogue of Satan. There's no command in Scripture to do that, to pay your money to the treasury of a church. It's not there. That's twisted Scripture, and the pastors of this world make themselves rich teaching lies. They're more than happy to say that the commandments are done away with from the Old Testament, but yet they will hang on to that tithing commandment with their whole heart. You get a church with 100 people in it, and if every person pays 1/10 of their income, then they've got the full income of 10 people for the ministry of the church. It's a farce. It's a lie. You look at these mega churches, 10,000, 50,000 people going into these churches and throwing their money in a tithing plate. Is it any wonder the pastors like Joel Osteen can have a $12 million house, 2 private jets? You bought it. You asked for it. You want the ears tickled. You want to hear the prosperity gospel, which is no gospel at all. Get in the Scripture. Open your Scripture. And don't just read the black and white words on the page. Go into the Strong's Concordance. Learn what these words mean. Go into etymology and learn what the words meant before they were corrupted. Go back to the 14th or 12th century, earlier if you can. Find out what these words meant in early history. What they mean today, most times, is so far from the truth, you don't know what your Bible says. And I can say that because I didn't know what my Bible said. Reading my Bible was just confusing to me until I started searching these words out and learning what they mean. And then things begin to make sense. If you look at the incense ingredients that Moses was commanded to make for the Holy of Holies, or for the altar of incense, it says, if any man mix them to smell them, it's an abomination. Yet when I first began to understand that I was to keep Torah, to walk in the covenant with Yahuwah, the first gathering of Messianic Hebrews or Hebrew roots, the first gathering we went to was at Shavuot, Feast of Weeks. And lo and behold, here comes one of the leaders of that group, and he's got this little, it's like a T-ball for steeping tea. Anyway, it's got coals in it, incense, and it's the very ingredients that Moses commanded to not mix them to, or that Yah said, do not mix them to smell them. It's an abomination. And here he comes waving that around, going through the crowd so everybody can smell the incense. It's an abomination. Go look at the ingredients. It has nothing to do with the spices that you read in the black and white text. It's all about our conduct. It's about we're one, we're alone, we're one with Yah. And it's about being able to speak the gospel. It says to roar like a lion and remain white. And that's what the ingredients. Go look them up, read them, understand them. Because all of the prophets were alone. They roared like a lion. And they remained spotless, white. Their prayers are the white robes of the saints. So, when Messiah said to pay tithes of mint, cumin, and anise, this is the very thing he was talking about. It's the joy. It's the laying up. It's the storing up our treasures through our prayers. But he said, you ought not to have left the other undone, the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. So how do we walk in this life without judging people? We have to judge every situation we come to. We have to measure, weigh it. It is judgment. But to express something, he said there is one that judges you, and it's Moses. Well, if the law was done away with, then Moses' words mean nothing. So if Moses is the judge, then what Moses wrote, the words that were given by Yah, is the judge. So the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith, understanding them, all come from the Old Testament. If we don't understand that, we walk in ignorance and blindness. And in ignorance and blindness, we'll give our wealth to the pastors and preachers of this world because they're preaching lies and deception. Deceivers. Pay your tithes in prayers. And when you have the opportunity to help, help. That's all that Yah commands. He's not commanding you to pay your earned money to these lying scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites that are in the churches today. And then another thing, your tax dollars are paying for all these wars in the world. Do some research. Your tax dollars are paying NASA over $65 million a day to do what? The military funding all goes through NASA. Why does NASA have thermonuclear boring machines? Why does the Air Force have boring machines? They're doing things with your tax dollars that you have no idea. They're robbing you, and they're killing people by the millions. And they intend to kill you too. So be careful where your money goes. Be careful who you give it away to freely. If you want to pay tithes to the church, do it because it's in your heart to pay something, but don't do it because you feel like it's an obligation. If that's the case, you've been led astray and you're paying to the synagogue of Satan. Be free in the Word. Get in the Word and search the Word for yourself. Hallelujah.